Today, we are going to review a complete demonstration of Soleran's work orders product. We're going to start off with the corrective side of our work order program. So we're going to kick it off entering a work order from our requester portal. If I navigate to my requester portal here, we'll design a form alongside your team so that we can collect information from requesters throughout the hospital when they need to submit a work order request. We can define different request types to help guide the users to filling out the form, enter in a description of the issue, and even add attachments if they want to take a picture or upload a document. The next section will ask them to define the area where the work needs to be done. We can set some dependencies and requirements so that they have to select a campus, building, floor, etc., to define where the work needs to be done. Finally, we can collect information about the requester so that we can contact them and follow up with them, such as their name, email, and phone number. They'll be able to submit a request just like this from that requester portal, and it'll go into the work order system. It'll confirm that their submission was complete and send them an email communication to follow up. They can also return to submit another work order to that page. We're going to continue to follow that work order we just submitted. I'm going to log into our web application. Soleran's work orders product also has a mobile application that we'll continue with in a little bit. Once we switch to our web application via our web browser here, I'm going to land on my home page where I can access some dashboards and reports and modules at the top of the screen that are going to take me to different tools. I'm going to go ahead and progress to my work orders module here so we can go and find that work order that we just submitted on the portal. Once I get to my work orders module here, we have a selection of views. So our view pane here is going to help us sort through different lists of work orders here. We're going to navigate to our unassigned work orders view here so that we can find the work order that we just submitted. In this scenario, we are going to dispatch this work order out. Some organizations choose to have automatic assignments set up, which is certainly also an option in our platform. If we look at our unassigned work orders, the one that we just entered is going to appear at the very top. So we are going to actively edit this work order to assign it out to a technician. You'll notice we have options to filter our report further if we need to. This time we're just going to navigate to the one that we want at the top. I'm going to click my pencil and paper icon next to my work order number to actually open up that work order in edit mode. If we scroll down here, we're going to see all of the information that was submitted from the portal has transferred over. We've actually assigned it a work order number already. We can see the description, request details, the picture, and location information that was submitted from the portal page when we entered it. We have the option to review that information and make any adjustments as a dispatcher as necessary, but we'll go ahead and scroll down just a little bit to continue with our classification section. So as we're trying to assign this work order out, we want to set some parameters for the technicians that are going to do the work. So first, we have different status options here. These are our default status options for the kind of life cycle of a work order: new, assigned, in progress, on hold, canceled, and closed. All right, so we're going to try to usually flow through that life cycle for a work order along the way here. Next, we can assign a priority. These can best fit your policy so that you know and your users know the urgency of an item. So if this one's just medium urgency, right, we want to control that temperature, but it's not necessarily on fire for them, we can set that priority. We can also choose to have that automatically set our due date. So if your policy says issues that are of medium priority need to be resolved in a certain time frame, we can calculate that automatically for you. It's actually going to also tell us where this work order came from. It came from that web request portal that we submitted from a moment ago. We'll actually see other work orders through our demonstration today, and that they originate from other places. Soleran's platform allows for multiple applications in our integrated compliance management platform. So we'll see it be created from multiple places here throughout our demonstration. We also have the option to associate this work order with a parent work order. We'll have another scenario of that one later. If we look through our timeframes here, we'll actually see when this work order was added into the system. And we also have the option to list when their work might be scheduled or an area available if applicable. Finally, we'll go over to our assignment section over here with multiple ways that we can assign this work order to our team to start to work on. First is assigning it to an individual user. We'll be able to see our team members listed in a drop-down here, and we can select their name to assign it to them. We also have the option to assign it to a particular group. So if this has to do with HVAC, maybe we're going to assign it to our HVAC group so that they can work on that as well. We can manage then the team members that are in the HVAC group so that all of those team members can see it. If we are going to call in a vendor to work on this issue too, we can list the name of that vendor here for our records as well. So if we're going to send in the Soleran team, we can do that as well. You can also use these all together as well, right? We can combine these options to assign it to a set group of people as well. Our final option here is to assign additional team members. So perhaps the person that we've chosen to assign it to here is a little bit new, still learning the ropes. We can add additional team members so they have access to it as well. So perhaps I'll send David along too, or Thomas to help out as well. You can add as many additional team members so that it is as if it is also assigned to them as well. So they can all access the work order from their to-do list, add notes, enter time, and etc. from there. Next, we have a notes log here. This is an internal notes log. So if you have any notes for the team, things like that, we can capture that information. It'll date and timestamp it along with the author of the note. So you can kind of have a running log of notes for this particular work order. We see another section for closing details and time here at the bottom, but at this point, we're just assigning this work order out to our technician who still needs to do the work of actually figuring out what's going wrong with the temperature in that conference room. So at this point, we're going to submit the record, which we can do at the bottom or the top of our screen to apply those changes that we've made. So now as the technician, Amanda Alexander, we can go and find that work order on our to-do list and continue from there. At this point, we're going to switch over to the mobile application to take a look at that there. We will find the mobile application here on my iPad that we are using today. We're going to go ahead and log into the eApp, our native mobile application here. So I am going to go log in and land on my apps page here where I'm going to see access to the tools that my role has permission to. As a reminder, it's a platform. So if you purchase additional applications, you can have access to them from the mobile application as well. So I'm going to assume the role of the technician who this has been assigned to. So I am going to log into my work orders application here to find that work order that I was just assigned. And click on that header, and it's going to take me to my personalized dashboard where I can see some metrics at the top in my dashboard that show me my open corrective work orders that are assigned to me, my open preventative, planned, and etc. I can also see unassigned corrective work orders, quick close PMs, which we'll address, and track my time that's been entered today and this week. We'll see these items change as we navigate through the application. So we will see that it happens to be at the top, our work order here that was just submitted. But if we wanted to, if we had quite a few items on this list and we're trying to prioritize ourselves, we can start by filtering our report. So if I click my filter report button here, it'll pop over a new window where I have the option to filter by particular building, priority, etc. So maybe we want to make sure that I address anything with a priority first. So I can select my options that are available from the dropdown. Right now, I only have either things without a priority or medium priority. So I can select that. I could also select other filters as well. Perhaps we're in the Overland Park building. We want to make sure we address everything there while we're there. We can click done and it'll apply a filter. In this case, it's just going to show me the one work order that I have assigned to me. We'll see a little asterisk here showing us that our report is filtered, because we can always come back and clear out that filter later to return to our full list. When we're looking at our work order, we're going to see some information at a glance, such as the work order number, its priority, description, its location, and date added and date that it is due from our list here. So all I have to do is click anywhere on that row to actually open up the work order here. So I'll click on my work order number to open up that particular work order. What we'll see here is a linear format of our work order form. It's actually going to be those same fields that we saw on our web application before. We're going to see that work order number, our request type, the description, a picture if it was taken, contact information for our requester, where it's located, right? Priorities, added date, due date, schedule date, who it's assigned to, right? And our status field, right? It says that it's currently assigned. So usually this is the part where the technician will review the top half, and then as they're completing the work order, they are going to interact with these last few fields here, right? To actually complete the work order. So we've ran over to that conference room, took a look at the thermostat, realized the controls were broken on the thermostat, and so we're going to replace it. So I went ahead and did that. So I'm going to go ahead and update my work order here to show the work that I did. I'm going to first change my status. We're going to close out this particular work order. So I'm going to change my status to closed from the drop down there. I'm going to click on my timer here to submit my time that I spent. So I can go ahead, and maybe this took me 1 hour and 15 minutes. I can enter 1.25 or 1 hour and 15 minutes. Right? I could enter in 75 minutes if I really wanted along the way there too. It's going to assume today's date and time as when you're entering it. If you need to backdate it, you can click this start date and time to do that. You can also track things such as a timer type, whether it's standard time, overtime, etc., listed there. You can also set a particular description. So if maybe I was searching for parts for a certain period of time, I can apply a description to that time entry and then say that I spent maybe another hour actually installing the new piece of equipment. In this case, we'll just proceed with just our time entry, and I need to click submit to apply that time to my work order. I can therefore make multiple time entries, right? So if I needed to make another time entry because I came back and finished it off later, I can do that. I can submit as many entries to this particular work order as necessary, and it'll apply it to the timer log. So I can click on that little notebook icon that serves as our timer log and see all of the entries on this particular work order. Even if other users have added it, you will see those listed in the log. Finally, our closed date is going to autofill when we change our status to closed, and it's going to assume today's date. Again, if we wanted the option to be able to backdate it, perhaps we forgot to close it out yesterday, we have that option. We can detail a cause. Maybe it just needed maintenance. Maybe it was a user error, right? Something damaged it, right? We can list that out if we choose to track trends in our system, but it's not a required field. We can enter in some closing notes for the requester, right? So we want to communicate back to that person who requested it, some notes about how we fixed it. We'll have the option to type that in using the keyboard that appears on our device, right? We can type in here. Or our mobile applications, right, our mobile devices, excuse me, have microphones on them. So we can use that microphone to do talk to text if we'd like to communicate that into the closing notes for requester field here as well. Replace the thermostat with new equipment so that you can control the temperature properly. So always going to recommend proofreading there because Siri doesn't always hear you correctly, but it is a great way to capture notes on the go out in the field to communicate back to the requester. We can also take pictures as well to document maybe the new equipment that was added there. We can frame up our picture of our new thermostat, or old one in this case, right? Use that photo to show that we have replaced that piece of equipment. We can also take a second picture if we would like as well, indicate some information about the parts that we used as well to help us close out this work order as well. When we're done, we're going to click Save in the right-hand corner. In this case, we've closed the work order, so it's also going to fall off of our to-do list. We can always save a work order, even if it's not closed, if we got it in progress and things like that, and return to it later, but it'll save the work that we've done so far. So I'll click Save here, and we're going to see a little dot next to our work order change. That's going to confirm the sync process here. And then it's actually going to fall off of our list since it's been completed. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that filter that we added in previously. To return to my full list here, we'll actually see our number of open corrective work orders drop to 12 since we have completed one. And we can visit our recently completed list as well to see work orders that have been completed. To do that, there's 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. Bring a little drop-down menu for additional reports here. So we can see there's a report that says My Recently Closed Corrective, and we can see the work order that we just completed. That was Too Cold in the Conference Room in the Guest Services Department. We can also see that our time added today, right, has increased, and this time this week, so technicians can keep track of the time that they've entered each day. One last thing on the mobile application for our corrective work orders. You can also add work orders from the mobile application and the web. One nice thing about adding it from the mobile application is if you're out in the field and you see something that needs to be fixed, you can capture it here on the go. The easiest way to get to it is from the menu icon in the right-hand corner. A menu slides in from the right here, and we have the option under Quick Add to add an asset or a corrective work order. So if I want to add a corrective work order, I'll click on that plus next to corrective, and it'll open up a blank form here, and I can submit a new work order from here to add it to our to-do list. So the technician can fill out the form either completely or partially to submit that new work order into the system to get resolved later, or if they've already resolved it. Fields in red will be required, right? So that they have to submit those at least before adding a new work order into the system. We are going to switch back to the web application to see some related elements to our corrective work orders to finish off the picture of those as well before continuing on with preventative maintenance. Let me switch my screen here. We're looking back at that work order on the web application, and we can see our data has synced from our mobile application. It's changed our status to closed. We can see the notes, pictures, and time entry that I made from the mobile application as well. One nice thing is we can see some related information to this work order from the web as well. We can see child work orders if applicable, if any permits. Surveys are one thing for corrective work orders that are a nice option to have in our system. We can send out a survey to the requester for them to fill that out. You can actually even see a log of those email communications under our workflow email here. We can see each workflow email that was sent as a result of this particular work order. By default, we normally recommend email notifications go out when there's a change in status. Maybe not every change in status, but this is a great way to communicate back to your requesters updates about that work order. So the first one that we have here is when our work order got created. We can see in our email viewer a preview of what was sent to that requester. We can also see our work order closed that was sent at the end with a link to that survey that they can complete. They can click that link directly from their email so that they can fill out a survey with whatever questions you'd like, rating scales, things like that, to submit comments and get feedback for your team. Back on our work order, we can also see notes and have a section to upload any sort of content, other documentation, maybe vendor receipts, things like that, to store that information on our work order as well. We can always return to our work orders list to view other corrective work orders, add new ones from the web, and things like that. We'll continue with reports on another section during our demonstration to come. We're now going to continue with our preventative maintenance side of the work orders application. I'm going to switch my library over here from Corrective to my Preventative tool sets, and it's going to change the tools at the top so that I can navigate to my Assets module, which is our base for preventative maintenance. From my Assets module, we're going to get to see all of the assets that we have in the database. So we'll be able to, again, use our search tools here to navigate to a particular asset. We're going to look at one that's already been created today as our example. I'm going to use its asset ID to identify it in the system. And then I'm going to click on its asset ID to open it up in our read-only mode here so we can take a preview of this particular asset. Our asset information is going to actually be divided into a couple of tabs along the top of the screen here. First, we're going to see our very basic asset information, such as its ID, if it's related to another asset, an asset name, perhaps, if what you commonly refer to it as, the status, and then we group our assets into our category and subcategory. We can also identify its location, if it serves a different area is associated with a particular cost center. We're going to come back to our scheduler here. This is going to determine our preventative maintenance in just a moment. We'll look at some other basic asset information such as specifications, manufacturer, model, serial number, belt filter sizes, things like that. We can also keep track of purchase and warranty information. This is a great way to help budget and plan for expected life of a particular asset. Kind of capital planning and budgeting. Also keeping track of any warranty information. If your asset is covered under warranty, you can track that here. Finally, whatever you have in your policy as far as defining risk of that particular application, you can identify that here. We've got a sample set up for us that classifies risk under 4 different categories here and determines whether it happens to be AEM eligible or not if you are doing an alternative equipment maintenance program. Or OEMs, you can determine the risk for that in the application here. We can take pictures of the asset as well and always capture any more notes that we want for that asset as well. If I return to my asset information page, one of the things that is then important is to actually activate preventative maintenance for that particular asset. So what we have set up is a templated system here. So once you select your category and subcategory, it will actually prompt you all of the applicable templates that you have in the system that are relevant to that type of asset. That way you can reuse the same preventative maintenance schedule and tasks over and over for like assets. We have a lot of flexibility in that system to make unique adjustments asset by asset, but our goal is to help make you as efficient as possible to activate preventative maintenance for assets without having to start from scratch each time and set up tasks or schedules. So once I've selected my subcategory, it will populate those schedules as I see down here below. So for my air handling unit on the rooftop, I have a quarterly, semi-annual, and annual schedules listed out here. We can then modify these schedules and activate them by clicking on the little pencil icon that we see just to the left. When we open up our schedule, this is actually going to be a copy of the template. So we will actually be able to see that this schedule is filled out primarily for us already. We'll have the name of the schedule, the category, subcategory, and frequency it's associated with, manufacturer and model, standards and element of performance. If you use a different regulatory agency as well, you can swap those out for those as well. We can see estimated work hours that we expect this particular preventative maintenance to take. We can then enter in specifics for that asset, such as like parts needed or equipment needed. Maybe we know the particular filter size for this air handler that we need, right? We can list that in our parts needed to communicate that in the work order to our technicians. We're going to come back to the top right section here. This is how we're going to assign this particular schedule once we're ready to get it started. We'll actually see the scheduler here. This is how we set our reoccurrence of that particular preventative maintenance. You'll notice we actually have 3 dates listed out here: a start date, a due date, and a create date. Those are meant to give you as much control over the schedule as possible. So we want to take a quick look at a visual. There's a help section here that'll help review the scheduler and all of those fields on our form for us. And we can take a look at those 3 dates together. So our start date is meant to be the first day that a technician can begin working on that preventative work order, right? If this is something that we want them to do at the beginning of September and make sure it's due by the end of September, that's what we're going to set our start and due date based on. That's going to build what we consider our compliance window. So that if they get it done between our start date and due date, right, it's done on time. If they do it after the due date, right, they still did it, right? But technically from a timing perspective, it would be past due. Our third date is our create date. That allows you to create the work order in the system in advance. The technician won't be able to see it or work on it until that start date is reached, but it gives you as management the option to plan ahead. Maybe vacations or holidays are coming up. You can see work orders maybe a month in advance and see if they need to be reassigned or rescheduled accordingly. So we can set frequencies daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, right? Every 3 years, every 2 months, every 2 days a week, right? It's very flexible. As you change your frequency, it changes the options that are associated with each frequency along the way there. You can also pick that start date by a certain day of the month, right? First Monday, last day of the month, right? As you see fit for your scheduling needs. Your due date will then pivot around your start date. So it can be due the same day, common for dailies, right? End of the week, common for weeklies, end of the calendar month for monthlies, quarterlies, etc., or so many days after the start date, right? That'll build your compliance window. Your create date, right, is that advanced look for management. Usually I recommend this first of the month, 1 month prior to the start date. That gives you a 1 month prep window to see what's coming down the pipeline. We have some other tools that'll help you plan your schedule further in advance, but this is a great way just in case someone's going to be out of the office, you can make arrangements to assign that preventative maintenance task elsewhere. We also have an active time frame. This comes in handy for things that might only be for one occurrence, such as that damper 1 year after install, or if there's something that you're doing seasonally, right? You can use that active time frame, right, to adjust for that. Otherwise, it's almost going to be always all the time, right, from there. But our active time frame can really help us out if, say, our chiller really only runs March through November here. We can have weeklies, monthlies, and things like that run just between that time frame and not run perhaps over the winter months there. That's what our active time frame will allow us to do. We also have the function here for auto close. This is just an option and only something we recommend for things that you're doing at a high frequency, such as daily or weekly. What that allows us to do is be proactive about past due things piling up in our system. So in the event that it is September 1st coming up here, and we missed a couple of weekly PMs, right? One that was due August 11th, 18th, 25th, things like that. And all of a sudden it comes December 1st. The technician would have 4 weekly work orders and now a monthly work order on their to-do list, all for that one asset, right? So they would have 5 work orders to do for that asset. We can use auto close to actually mark these past due work orders as incomplete closed by system. That'll help keep the technician's list clean and clear for them to actually work on things that are still within that compliance window or whatever time frame you so choose, just to keep those past due from piling up and keep you on track. You'll still be able to track those and report on those as well if you so choose from there, but it'll help again clean up those past due ones. Of course, if you plan to close them out yourself instead, that is totally an option. Finally, we'll see our task list listed out here below. We can see each of our tasks. We can drag and drop these into a new order. We could actually remove a question or even add a question to this task list if we wanted. This is something you typically just reserve strictly to managers and supervisors, but they could add a task if this air handling unit in particular was needed its filter replaced more frequently because it was next to a cottonwood tree. You could add that question to your task list, or add that task here for you guys to address that specifically for this asset. It would not be something that is necessary for any other air handling rooftops, right? You added that just to this particular asset on the way here. So with all of that said, everything that we looked at so far was primarily filled out for us, right? We were able to make some asset specific adjustments if need be, but otherwise what we really need to do is just say when we are going to activate this and who we are going to assign it to. We don't want all of our quarterlies to happen in the same couple of months every year, right? We want to kind of spread things out or do it with other like assets or in the like location to be most efficient. So if we're activating this, we can activate it, right? For this current month, maybe we're going to activate this effective October 1st, right? We can activate that, checking our box, and pick who we want to assign it to. Again, we have options. We can assign it to a particular individual or to a group from there. And the little blue box here will confirm when we have our next start date for this particular schedule coming up in the system. Once I click submit, it will pop up. It'll pop back to our schedule section here, and we can see that our top record for quarterly is now active and who it's assigned to from our little preview window here. One nice option that we have too is you have the option to create a one-off preventative maintenance using that schedule. So it's going to create one every quarter, at least until we inactivate that asset or that schedule in particular. But if for any reason you feel the need to do extra maintenance on that, you can click this one-off button, and what it'll do is it'll create a preventative maintenance record on the spot for you guys to do essentially an extra one outside of your normally scheduled preventative maintenance. So in case you feel the need to double check on an asset, maybe it needs to be re-inspected or things like that, you can do that, and it will create a PM on the spot for today for you guys to conduct as well. All right. From our asset tab here, we can actually click on our work orders tab and see all work orders associated with this particular asset. We can see that quarterly that we just scheduled, right, has created in the system, and we can even see the one-off that we've created here as well. As always, we have the option for notes and content that we can see for this asset as well, such as uploading a manual that I did for this particular asset. Note back on our work orders tab, we can even see corrective work orders that we performed on this asset in the past. So it'll combine all types of work orders that are related to that particular asset. Now, our technicians are primarily going to complete that preventative maintenance work order from their mobile application. So we'll switch over there to take a look at that. Back on our mobile application here, we'll actually see at the bottom of our list one of our work orders for that particular asset that's due today under my open preventative here. So if I go and I click on that work order, it's going to look a little bit different than our corrective work order. We're actually going to have that task list to complete. So we'll see our task list over here on the left and an answer pane on the right where we will indicate whether it pass, fail, or in a comments and take pictures. We also have the option for some additional resources to be made available for the technician as well, that we can see up here in our right-hand corner. So if we actually click on that little library icon with the corner of the page folded over, it'll take us to resources for that particular asset, including that manual I just mentioned that was associated with that asset. We also happen to have a picture of the asset there. If I click on that manual, it'll open up that manual on my screen here, right? And I can actually view it from a web browser page and view that manual. And I can click in the left-hand corner, there's a little arrow back to the app, go back right where I was. So we can make the manuals or other resources available to your technicians right here from the mobile application. All the technician needs to do is to click on a particular task to be able to start answering it. They can mark things as passed as they complete them in the system. They don't have to do them in order, right? But if they need to, they can do that along the way here, right? So we can skip around. Maybe we'll say that we weren't able to replace that filter, right? Needs new filter. We didn't have in stock, right? Anything that fails is going to create a corrective work order for us to follow up on. In this case, I've also set the system up to assign any corrective work orders to the technician who completed the PM so that they finish up the work for that as well. They have that option to take pictures as well, right, to associate that with the system as well. So if we have our filter that we want to take a picture of, we can take a picture of that as well. Just take a picture of the desk here. Right, and associate that with that particular task as well. We'll go through, we'll complete this. If we fail any other items, it'll create a corrective work order for each. That's how I've chosen to set up the system. We could combine them into one single work order if you'd like. If something doesn't happen to apply, they can do an A. If you want to record readings and things like that, we can have a separate field in addition to your comments to record readings and units as well in the system here. When we're done, we're going to click Save to save our work order here. It'll pop up a little message reminding us to mark the PM as complete if we're done. Enter in our time here. Change my status to closed. I can submit my time in the same manner I did for my corrective. I'll click Done, and then I'm going to save one more time to apply that time and change in status. It's going to sync that work order in the same manner. It's actually going to fall off of my list as well, and my time will increase. It's also going to assign that corrective work order to us so that we can complete that at a later date as well. So we'll wait just one moment. We'll see that our open preventative has now dropped to 16. And if I click on my open corrective here, actually at the top of my list, right, is a corrective work order to replace that filter. So if we open up that work order, we'll see the task for content and our comments as well, and any pictures, although it's taking just 1 second to load your pictures that we took, right, for that as well. It'll load where that asset was located, assign it to myself, right? And I can go and complete this corrective work order once I've tracked down that filter, right? From here, see mine, close that out, enter in my time for replacing that filter, right? I can take a picture of it, right? That I replaced it, things like that. Filter. Save, and then that one will fall off of my list as well. We'll take a look at how those things are noted on the work order as well. It will complete that PM, but mark it as pending corrective action until all of those associated correctives are closed as well. All right. We have another type of preventative maintenance. It's an option on the schedule to create a quick close PM. So we'll see we have a little button here that says My Open Quick Close PM. Not all assets are alike, right? And things like exit signs that you check in bulk, right? Doing a detailed tasks like that will certainly slow you down. So what you can do is essentially anything you've been doing on more of like a log sheet, things like that, we can have set up as quick close in our system. Exit signs are a great example. You could say, filter your report. Looks like I have downtown first, second floor and basement. I could filter to downtown building, second floor. Well, we'll do basement. Done. Filter my report, and I could go check all of the exit signs that were in the basement here. We have a couple of options for going about this. When I see an issue with a particular exit sign, I can click on it from my list. It's going to open up an abbreviated form. We're trying to make it quick for the technicians to capture the information that they need. Perhaps this one failed, not illuminated, right? They can enter in their time that they took, probably just a couple minutes, right? They can take a picture of the exit sign, right? That's not illuminated. Right? And click save. And then that one's going to fall off of our list, right? Just the bare minimum to note that that exit sign is not illuminated from there. Anything else that's on our list, maybe I'm walking through the rest of the basement. This one looks good. This one looks good. This one looks good, right? I can then mass close those, right? So I can click mass close past all of these. I can enter in comments if necessary. Maybe it just took me 15 or 20 minutes to walk the rest of the floor to check all of those. I can submit my time. It'll actually divide it evenly too across those assets. I will save that information, and then those 3 are going to fall off of my list here in just a moment because I completed those in mass. So we'll be able to see that happen on our list here to be more efficient. So especially checking things in large areas, right? We'll be able to check exit signs or maybe fire extinguishers and things like that in mass. You can still fail each individually, right? But you can mass pass anything else to be most efficient with your technician's time along the way there. One other thing from the mobile application that is very handy for technicians doing preventative maintenance or checking on assets as well is the ability to pull up asset-based reports from the mobile application. We do that actually from our little menu over here. We have a section called Quick Lookup. We could find an asset by typing in its asset ID number in this list and pulling it up. Or if we have a barcode or QR code on our asset, we can actually scan it to pull up asset information. So if I click that scan option under Quick Lookup, go over to one of my assets here and scan its barcode, it is going to pull up asset-based reports for us to see on our mobile application. We can see that asset ID, some basic information about the asset, a picture of it if we have it. We can actually edit that asset information by clicking that asset button right there. It'll pull up our asset record on the mobile application. So if I needed to make any modifications, take any new pictures, things like that, I could do that right here from my mobile application. I could even open up a corrective work order if I notice a problem for that. It'll automatically associate it with that asset for me to work from my mobile application. And then I can see a series of reports, such as open corrective work orders for that asset, open preventative work orders, quick close, and recently closed ones, such as the one that we closed corrective and preventative that we closed just a few minutes ago, right? We can actually see those, access them, open them up from our mobile application here to review that information, right? So it's a great way to see information about assets on the go. We can continue scanning other assets, pulling up other asset information throughout the facility this way. Finally, one more thing for our preventative maintenance is we can also add new assets so that we can schedule PMs on them later, right? So under our quick add, we also have the option to add an asset here. We can type in that asset information on our screen here. We'll do a sample. We'll fill out its status. It's going to start with pending for us. We can select the type. We can even search here. So if we're going to continue with our air handler, right, I can start typing, filter my list. Maybe we'll do an indoor one. I can select my subcategory if we have multiple options, where it's located, right? Buildings within that location, floors within that building, department, so on and so forth, the area it might serve, manufacturer or model. Let's see if we have train in here. There we go. Select models, train, serial numbers, things like that. Take pictures of it as well. Cost, warranty information, things like that. And we actually have the option to add multiple assets at once. So if you've got a bunch of assets in, or we're opening a new building, you can use that right arrow to efficiently save and retain certain information so that you can then quickly save multiple assets at once. I can even auto sequentially number it up here along the way to help you guys out. We would be able to fill out all of our required fields. And then when I hit save, it's going to actually submit 2 assets into the system for me at once. Back on the web here, we're going to follow up on a couple of those preventative maintenance work orders we just finished up. So we can see under my view here that says my closed work orders, the preventative maintenance that we just closed out from our mobile application. We can actually see the preventative maintenance for the air handler, the corrective maintenance that we closed as a result of that preventative maintenance, and our exit signs that we used with our quick close here as well. Let's take a look at our preventative maintenance one that we first completed. I'll click on that work order number here. We'll be able to see all of our tasks, answers, comments, pictures listed here as well. See all of the details about that particular asset listed out here. For that year. One of my favorite things is that we can see our PM stage and PM result here. So it says that it was completed on time because it was due between the available date and its due date. And the PM result says repaired compliant because we had failed an item, but we have since resolved it. A way that we can check on that really quickly is to go to our child work orders here at the top. We can see that corrective maintenance and that it was closed from here as well. If we want to look at an example where we hadn't completed that corrective yet, switch here for a moment. Here we noted an item, our bolts or is broken, right? It's going to say pending corrective action, right? Since it is not, the corrective associated with that is not complete. And if we had multiple corrective work orders to complete, it would wait until all of them are complete until it's going to say repaired compliant. If everything was compliant to begin with, it would just say compliant. Here's also an example of one that was been complete past due. Still complete, it was just past its due date when it was closed out. So it was closed in May, even though it was due in March. All right, a couple other things from a management perspective. You have the option here to manage templates, PM schedule templates, such as the air handling unit rooftop that we looked at before. So if we search for that one here, we can manage that schedule globally from here, right? We can add new templates and things like that from here, and we can manage this globally. So if standards change, we had other tasks that we wanted to address, we can add that and then add it to all schedules and all work orders as well, if we so choose. So as administrators, you can manage that. You can also manage the schedules of each individual asset. So if somebody from your organization got a new role or left, you can make changes en masse to manage that schedule as well. We also have some tools and reports that are going to help you see your workflows, your workforce management and scheduling workloads for everybody to help plan accordingly and distribute the workload efficiently. All right, let's take a look at our planned events. Planned events are very similar to our preventative maintenance in the sense that they are also scheduled work orders. In this case, they just aren't associated with assets or pieces of equipment. They're just events. This is something that you can do for a variety of situations where you just need a reminder or have to address a reoccurring task, such as calling in a vendor to do an inspection. Maybe other things such as a grounds inspection, which we're not going to consider to be an asset. But we do need to do a regular quarterly inspection on our grounds. You can set up those as events and have a reoccurring schedule to those. So the event is very similar, therefore, to an asset. So if we look at a particular event, we can have a schedule associated with it as well. The event is basically going to have a name and a location associated with it. It doesn't need things like manufacturer, model, other specifications, risk information, things like that. We're just going to categorize them and have a schedule as well. So if we look at our schedule for an event, it's going to look very similar to our preventative maintenance. We have the option to associate it with a standard, an element of performance, or other standards as well. We can see here that we assign it to an individual, even someone who's perhaps a vendor, if it's something that's vendor inspected. We can see our scheduler and our task list are all the same. So you can manage that process in the same way, event schedule templates and event schedules from a management perspective as well. You even have that one-off button. What we're doing primarily with separating events is not treating them as equipment when they're not. It's also going to help in our reporting to have a barrier between those two options in the system. So if we switch here to our mobile application, we can take a look at what a planned event looks like on our mobile app. All right. back on our mobile app here, we have our My Planned events over here as well. We're going to see them listed out on our to-do list report down below. And all we need to do is click on that. So I have a patient room inspection I wanted to conduct. I can open that up. We'll see our task list on the left and our answer pane on the right. It's actually going to function in the same way. So maybe one of our faucets is leaking, right, that we need to fix. We can pass and fail these in the same way, and it'll create corrective work orders for anything that fails on our list as well for us to follow up on those items. So you're going to have as many tasks, our patient room inspection is quite detailed here, as you want. When we click save, it's going to prompt us to enter in our time and mark it as closed, just like we did before. We'll click done and save, and it will complete that planned event, create a corrective work order assigned to us to follow up on that particular faucet that was leaking, right, on our list, submits our time as well from there. So it's a very similar process for our preventative maintenance, but we're going to keep it separated for our reporting purposes and more efficient to set a schedule than creating an asset. So if we follow up on that one back on the web here, sit through my screen. You can see my planned work order, right, that we just completed. We'll open that one up. Going to resemble very much our PM set of tasks, answers, comments, pictures, things like that. Going to be complete, past due, and pending corrective action in the same way here. I mentioned this briefly before that we can see where things originated from. So this one originated from an event. If we look at our previous preventative maintenance that we were looking at as well, it is going to say that it originated from an asset, right? And that child work order that we looked at for the failed item as well is going to say that it originated from a PM. There's also an example then of that parent work order, right? That's going to automatically make that association for you in the system. We're going to first address 2 specialty reports in our system and then all general reports in our system. The first one that I'd like to address is our compliance survey dashboard. We designed this alongside a former Joint Commission surveyor, but it does work for all regulatory agencies, not just Joint Commission. We are working with real-time data here from our preventative and planned work orders, and we are automatically associating them with a standard and element of performance. Keep in mind, we have 2 modes to this dashboard. First is going to be work mode, which we are currently looking at the moment, and it is designed for a facility manager's perspective to keep up with how you are doing on completing those scheduled work orders. We have a separate mode that we'll follow up with called inventory mode. That is designed to show for your surveyors when they come for a survey. This is currently our work mode for our facility managers. Just to kind of break down what we're looking at here, we are currently viewing all facilities. You'll notice we have some filters here at the top if we wanted to filter to a particular campus or building or even year. We can do that at the top of our screen. We'll see along our first column here on the left, we're going to see our list of standards and elements of performance. That's how I've labeled them in my report here. We have a little information icon. If we hover over that, it'll give us more details, such as the categories of the assets associated with it, the frequency of that particular maintenance, and whether it's a PM or PE that's associated with it as well. We'll come back to our little blue arrow here. That's going to help us drill into that particular standard and EP for more information. But next, we're going to see the last, the 12 months for this current year that we have selected along the way. And we're going to see some information in green, red, and yellow, and some counts next to them. These are actually the counts of work orders associated with each of those months that are associated with that particular element of performance. Green means we completed it, right? It was due in January and we completed it, and so on and so forth. Red means that there was a work order for June that is not yet completed, right? Missed it somehow, right? And it was due in June and we have not completed it. Yellow are items that are upcoming but aren't due yet, right? We still have a chance to get some stuff done that's due in September and due in October, right? Because we're not out of time yet for those particular items in yellow. And we can hover over these for more detail, right? We can see the number of 150 have been complete, 452 for a total of 600. So it's telling us that we have 24% complete for that particular month of July for this particular EP that I'm hovering over here. So if we want to drill in for more examples, more detail, right? I can click that drill down button next to a standard and EP. So we're going to use our EC 02, 05, 07, EP4 here for our generators, if I hover over it, right, to drill down. So I'm going to click that blue arrow to drill into it. It's going to give us more detail on a building level. Currently only have generators in one particular building. Here's our downtown building that we can see here. And we can then drill down further to look at specific assets. So I'm looking at one specific asset in that downtown building, our generator asset 11834 listed out here. And we can see the details for this particular asset now listed across our screen. If we want to look at March and try to get some more information on why we didn't get some stuff done in March, I can click on that month and it's going to load a report for me that shows a breakdown of all of those 4 work orders that were due in March. So we can see that one was completed, right? And the 3 that were not completed, see who that they were assigned to and things like that. We even have hyperlinks to that work order or asset in case we need to make changes. So if we need to make sure that this work order was marked as complete, Fred did do it, but forgot to mark it as complete, we can click on it. It takes me directly to that work order in the system where I can mark that as complete. You could also use that link to the asset if you wanted to change the schedule, assign it to a new individual, maybe who's taken over for Fred, to get those work orders completed. Now we'll circle back to our primary page here and switch our mode to inventory mode to take a closer look at that. I'll go up here in my mode here, switch it to inventory, and it's going to change the look and feel of our dashboard quite a bit. So what we're actually looking at here is counts of our inventory that are associated with each standard. So we're going to see changes in our metrics down here. We're actually going to see some that are in green and some that are in white. White's going to indicate that there has been a change. Now it's best to drill into these for some more detail because some of those changes are going to be on a more specific level in the event that you have multiple categories associated with a particular standard and EP, such as this one here where we have a fire alarm system and fire alarm trigger devices associated with it. Let's take a look at our example here. We're going to look down here for our EC02, 05, 09, EP2, our med gas, right? I'm going to click on my blue arrow to drill down. It's going to take me to my building layer again, just like we did before for our work mode. And we can see some changes in inventory. So in January, I actually added these assets for the very first time. So that's why it's in white, indicating that there was a change. Our green 3s mean that there's no change from the previous month for February, March, and April. In May, we had another change in inventory. We can actually click on that month to get a comparison of what changed. It'll give us a detailed breakdown. So I can see that this particular asset, 11856, was removed during the month of May because it's in red here, and I can highlight just the removed one. I can check unchanged to see the assets that were unchanged there as well. So I can see a detail of what's changed. I can even click on that particular asset and it'll take me to that asset record in the system. And I can see that this asset has been decommissioned. You could even put in notes on the specific date or reason why it was decommissioned to help explain the reason why there was a change in inventory. You can see then that it stayed consistent, right? For those previous months, subsequent months, excuse me, that it was unchanged along the way. If I even go to the month of January here where I added them, you can see they're highlighted in green that I added those assets for the first time in the month of January here. We return to our home page here. I want to show us one more thing. We've had a floating report button over here on the far right that we haven't taken a look at yet. This is going to give us a detailed report. So far we've been drilling in and being interactive. If we want a copy of a report to save externally from the system, it's going to give us a detailed report. We're going to use our example here for a particular standard EP to take a look at. All right, we're going to use one with a lot of data here. We're going to use our EC020501 EP5. I'm actually going to drill down because you'll see that that report button is going to live on each layer. So now I can even see details of my buildings here. And if I want to go and click on that report, it's going to open up a detailed report in a new tab for me. And it's going to list the standards in EP and their descriptions for all of the assets that are in this report. So even though we were drilling down on a specific standard in EP, those assets actually have relationships to other standards and elements of performance. So it's going to list them all at the top for us. Then we'll see a breakdown for each asset. It'll list its asset ID number and name, if applicable, where it's located, and all of the work orders associated with it. You'll see the work order number, the type, the frequency, right, due date and such from there, that we can see all of that information. We can even drill into one by clicking on that work order number. We can even see related correctives, right? We got a little tab in for a corrective maintenance work order that was associated with preventative maintenance here, and the results that pending corrective action we addressed before. So if we notice this, wanted to make sure that corrective got closed, I can click on that work order number directly from my report, and it'll open up that work order in the system for me to mark it as complete. You can also save this information into a PDF or print it out by opening your printer settings here. Right, and save this as a file, print it out. This one's quite large, probably several pages listed out there that we can print that out, save it for our records and things like that, or share it with others if we so choose. One other element that I want to make you all aware of for our inventory. So if I go back to my homepage here, another component is you might have vendors assisting with your preventative or planned events in the system. So we can actually make sure that those are available in our compliance survey dashboard as well. We're going to use our final standard EP here at the bottom, our life safety one, for this particular example. I'm going to use my arrow to drill down into it. And in this case, I have brought in vendors to help with my fire sprinkler inspection. So I had them do it in the month of June here. So I can actually click on the month of June and we can see the fire sprinkler inspection. And I can even pull up that report that they did. So I can click on that report and it will upload that. We've uploaded that report, so I can even access that inspection report from our compliance survey dashboard that the vendor provided us. So all we do is upload that report associated with a particular work order. They can even enter in the count of the number of assets inspected, so that can apply to our counts for inventory as well. Now, those sections will appear on the work order for your team to attach the report and enter in the number inspected, and it will filter right into our reports without any additional action from your team here. So our goal of this compliance survey dashboard really is to eliminate the usual steps of having to prepare a binder and transition and assist you in transitioning to electronic documentation. So it'll help you maintain your status on work orders and just prepare for regulatory surveys with a touch of a button and be able to drill in and answer questions during your document review. We have another specialty report that we're looking at now, which is our schedule planning report. This is to help you understand how your workload is distributed across your different technicians in the system. In this case, I'm looking specifically at preventative maintenance and how we've distributed it, not only amongst our team members, which are listed at the top from left to right, but the months throughout the year. So that if we're bringing on a new building or redistributing some of our preventative maintenance schedules, that we can keep in mind the best time of year to schedule it so that we don't have some crazy months. Like if we look at April here, where I have 926 work orders due in this red box over here, but it is equivalent to 2,105 hours, right? Whereas the month before in March, we only have 700 hours worth of preventative maintenance to do. So if we're bringing things new online, we should probably assign them in March, right? To redistribute the workload that we have throughout the year. We can do that same by person, which is in our blue boxes here. We can see the count of work orders and then those estimated estimated hours for those work orders listed below, so that we can see how our workload is distributed across our individuals. Frank here apparently has a lot of work, right, in comparison to the other team members. So if we wanted to drill into what Frank has been assigned, we can click on that blue box. It'll open up in a new tab where we can see a detail for Frank in particular, how many work orders are assigned each month, the amount of work that is assigned each month in terms of hours, and the actual schedules that are assigned to him listed out here. So if we wanted to distribute some of those to others, we could click on that, even a particular schedule here, and get it assigned to another technician to help reduce Frank's workload there. So we can see that from our schedule planning report and drill into other users. In this case, I'm looking at it monthly. We could do it weekly or filter it by a particular campus, building, or category as well. So that's going to help us distribute our workload across our technicians and throughout the year so that in no month or no user is overwhelmed. Finally, we have dashboards that are available to everybody as well. We can assign those by role to particular users. We can have these dashboards that contain a collection of reports. So we have a bunch that are designed already, such as our workforce management here, that's helping us keep an eye on our number of open work orders, past due, and etc. How they're broken down by users along the way, how many each user has past due, and a detail of those as well. So this is meant to be able to give us a bunch of reports at a glance, so summary reports, but we can always drill into these for more detail. So if I wanted to take a look at my past due work orders and what made up these past due work orders, I can click this blue arrow. It'll pop it out into a new window so that I can see all of my past due work orders in detail. We can see these. We can filter or sort our work orders by using our filters at the top. We can export them to a PDF or to Excel as well. And we can navigate directly from these to click the pencil to edit a work order or its work order number to take us directly to that record, maybe get it reassigned or marked as complete very quickly. So our dashboards are also interactive on your home screen here. You can even pop dashboards out into a new window. So if you're in a committee meeting, it will remove those navigational panes on the left and on the top, just so you can focus in on your dashboard, such as work order analytics. So we can see our pattern of corrective versus planned versus preventative, how campuses are doing compared to each other, how many work orders are getting opened each month, things like that, track trends. So we have different purposes for workforce management, surveys, tracking time, analytics, preventative maintenance, and etc. Already built into the system. And we can also train you how to build your own reports for anything you dream up along the way. That'll sum up our complete work orders demonstration for today. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know and we're happy to answer them.